The barn looked abandoned, silent, hollow, forgotten by time. The officers stepped inside, expecting nothing but dust and broken tools. Sunlight leaked through broken planks, dust drifting lazily in the air. Nothing about the place seemed unusual. But before anyone could take a second step, Canine Shadow froze. His ears shot up. His body stiffened. Then he lunged toward the center of the barn floor, growling like he sensed something alive beneath them. "Shadow, what is it, boy?" Officer Grant whispered Dot, then he erupted. The dog refused to move. He clawed violently at the floorboards, snarling, desperate, shaking. The officers tried to calm him, but Shadow wouldn't stop because something beneath them moved. A deep, hollow sound echoed beneath the wood. The officers exchanged uneasy looks. The barn wasn't empty. It was hiding something, Dot, and within minutes, the barn turned into a crime scene no one was prepared for. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The call came in just after sunrise. A local farmer reported strange noises coming from an old barn he hadn't used in years. Most officers brushed it off as raccoons or wind-rattling loose boards, but Officer Grant took Canine Shadow and drove out anyway. The property sat alone at the edge of town, swallowed by tall grass in silence. Grant stepped out of the patrol car, but Shadow didn't move. The German Shepherd stood stiff, ears tilted forward, tail low, eyes fixed on the barn as if something inside was staring back at him. "Easy, boy," Grant murmured, giving the leash a gentle tug. But Shadow resisted, letting out a deep, warning rumble. Two other officers chuckled. "Relax, Grant. The place is empty. Looks like it'll fall over on its own." Grant didn't laugh. Shadow never acted like this. Finally, Shadow pulled forward hard. He dragged Grant straight to the center of the barn floor where dust patterns were disturbed. As though someone had walked there recently, Grant knelt, brushing his fingers across the cracks between the old planks. A faint, cold draft lifted through them. Shadow growled, pawing the floor, more frantic by the second. Something was beneath them, something alive, or something dangerous. Grant signaled the other officers. "Pry this up." Officer Mills fetched a crowbar, wedged it between the warped boards, and pushed. The wood groaned in protest before snapping free. A rush of icy, stale air burst upward, carrying a rotten, metallic smell that made everyone recoil. Shadow barked explosively, backing up, then lunging again, like something inside was provoking him. His teeth were bared not in anger, but in warning. Grant crouched, shining his flashlight into the darkness below. The beam revealed a deep, unnatural cavity carved into the earth. This wasn't part of the barn's foundation. Someone had dug this deliberately. "Whoa. What is that?" Mills whispered. The light flickered over old ropes, torn fabric, and a dented metal bucket smeared with something dark. A glint caught Grant's eye. He reached down with a gloved hand and pulled up a tattered jacket, its sleeves stained, its buttons cracked. His heart dropped. He recognized it. It belonged to the missing teenager they'd been searching for all week. Before Grant could process the discovery, Shadow jolted forward, barking toward the far wall of the barn. His body stiffened, ears cutting sharply toward a second disturbance. Grant followed the dog's gaze dust, was trembling along the baseboards. Something else was moving beneath the floor. Shadow lunged toward the far corner of the barn, dragging Grant behind him. The officers exchanged uneasy glances. This wasn't random behavior. The dog knew exactly where he was going. Shadow stopped at a mound of hay stacked unusually high against the wall. He began digging furiously, sending hay flying in every direction. Within seconds, a metallic clang echoed beneath his paws. Grant knelt and brushed the remaining hay aside, revealing a square iron handle bolted into the floor. A trapdoor hidden deliberately. The metal was dusty, but the edges were clean. Recently touched. Someone didn't want this found. Grant muttered with a deep breath. He pulled. The trapdoor screeched open, releasing a heavy breath of cold air so sharp it raised goosebumps on their arms. A narrow wooden staircase descended into darkness. The walls scraped and scuffed as if someone or something had been dragged down. Shadow whined, pacing at the entrance, urging them forward. Mill swallowed hard. "You sure about this?" Grant nodded. Shadow hasn't been wrong once. They descended slowly, each step creaking beneath their weight. As they reached the bottom, the flashlight revealed a cramped underground chamber, damp walls, scattered tools, and a single chair bolted to the ground, a makeshift prison. A chilling silence, and then a faint, rhythmic tapping from the darkness beyond. The faint tapping grew louder, echoing through the cramped underground chamber like a heartbeat trapped in the walls. Shadow stiffened, ears pointed toward a second doorway sealed by a rusted steel sheet. He growled a low, warning rumble that sent chills up Grant's spine. Grant stepped closer, running his flashlight over the metal. Fresh scratches streaked across the surface from the inside. "Someone's in there," he whispered. Mills and the third officer wedged their crowbars into the edges and heaved. The steel groaned, bending slowly, then finally tore free with a sharp, metallic crack. The flashlight beam cut into the darkness of the hidden room. A teenage boy sat curled in the corner, arms wrapped around his knees, eyes wide with terror. He flinched at the light, shielding his face. "Hey, you're safe now," Grant said gently, stepping inside. "We're police. We're here to help." The boy shook his head violently. No, you don't understand." His voice weak, strained. "He's coming back. He always comes back." Grant's blood ran cold. Shadow whined softly, nudging closer to the boy. Footsteps suddenly echoed above them, slow, heavy, unmistakably human. Then the barn door slammed shut with a thunderous bang, trapping them below. Grant grabbed his radio. "All units suspect may be on site," requesting immediate backup. But deep down he knew they were already in the kidnapper's lair. The footsteps above grew louder, heavier, no longer pacing, but marching with purpose. The boy's trembling intensified. "That's him," he whispered. "Please, don't let him take me again." Grant motioned for the other officers to stay low as they guided the teenager toward the staircase. But before they reached the first step, the trapdoor above exploded open with a violent crash. Dust rained down. A shadowy figure loomed at the top, broad shoulders, a metal tool clutched in his fist. "Who's down there?" The man snarled. Before Grant could respond, Shadow launched himself up the stairs with a ferocity none of them had ever seen. He collided with the kidnapper, knocking him backward into the barn. The man struggled, swinging the tool wildly, but Shadow dodged and snapped, Forcing him down, Grant bounded up the stairs with Mills close behind. "Police, drop the weapon!" The kidnapper spat, eyes wild. "You think you've won? You would have never found this place without that stupid mutt." He tried to scramble to his feet, but Shadow tackled him again, pinning him long enough for Grant to seize his wrists. Mills cuffed him swiftly, pressing him to the floor. Sirens wailed in the distance, backup finally arriving. Grant looked at Shadow, panting, alert, unflinching. The dog hadn't just found evidence. He had saved a life and stopped a predator who had been hiding in plain sight. The teenager was rushed out of the barn and into the arms of waiting paramedics. His breathing steadied, though fear still lingered in his eyes. "Thank you," he whispered, glancing at Shadow before being lifted into the ambulance. Inside the barn, officers uncovered more evidence, records, belongings, and tools linking the kidnapper to several unsolved disappearances stretching back years. This barn wasn't just a hideout. It was the center of a nightmare. Grant knelt beside Shadow, running a hand over the dog's trembling shoulders. "You did more than your duty today," he murmured. "You saved him. And maybe others too." Shadow lifted his paw and pressed it gently against Grant's knee, a silent bond passing between them. Outside, the first light of morning broke across the fields as news crews arrived. Headlines would soon call Shadow a hero. But to Grant, he already was. "We thought the barn was empty," Grant said softly. "But Shadow saw what none of us could." If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And hit the bell icon so you never miss another powerful K9 hero story.